a Muslim with a woo-woo Christian in a biracial marriage. They are gym owners with tips on wellness, mindset, creating inner peace, and happiness despite differences. You're listening to the Clem and Alfred Unequally Yoked podcast.
Hey, we're back and we're talking about habits. Yes, they can make all of your dreams come true.
Or they could make them all just kind of stay stagnant.
Yeah, keep you in a prison.
Stuck in those habits and not moving forward. So we're going to talk about habits and things we could do to allow our habits to help us grow.
Yeah, okay, or get what we want. Because we can have whatever we want if we discipline our mind and our habits. Well, let's talk about first what are habits, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about your habits.
Okay. I have them.
Yeah, we all have them, right? Okay, so habits is our body knowing how to do something better than we know how to do it. I got this from watching Joe Dispenza. I try to get tickets to his 7-day workshop like all the time, but he is so sold out like in hours. His Portland one sold out in hours, Niagara Falls sold out, I think Italy sold out. Everywhere he goes.
Dubai's still open.
Well, no, it hasn't even opened yet. It's during my birthday. So what happens is they announce it's coming. Dr. Joe Dispenza, if you've never heard of him, look him up. He was riding in a bicycle race somewhere, and he fell off his bike and got ran over by a truck, and 6 of his vertebrae were crushed into the little tiny shards. And it was so bad that they said they couldn't help him, and he was supposed to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. But he healed himself. With what?
His mind.
His mind. Through meditation and mindset. And so we're talking about habits. And I was able to get a 1-day live stream of his last workshop, and that was amazing. So habits, as he described them, is when your body knows how to do something better than you can. Basically, it becomes our programming. Like our mind is programmed, our body is programmed. Like if you say something and it's a trigger from something in my childhood past, like it's too expensive or we don't have enough, and then it triggers something in me, and I like automatically my program is to give up, why even try, there's no hope. And so but it's just programming, repetitiveness of my dad saying we have no money, it's too expensive, there's no, no.
That's
straight up no.
Stop asking.
So eventually it's like, why try? So those are programmings that become a part of our body and becomes a part of our mind that it's our body just reacts to it.
So it's kind of like autopilot. Like your body's on autopilot in a certain direction, whether it's favorable or unfavorable. We'll discuss that later, but you're on autopilot.
Yeah, you don't even think about it. It's without thinking is our habitual subconscious mind programming.
You know, they use these real quick. I got it.
Yeah.
Real quick. Okay. Story. It's football season. Right? The Hawks are in camp. But what coaches do is they look at habits of other coaches, and they know that Pete Carroll, if he's on the 40-yard line and it's a 3rd down and they have 2 yards to go, and he has this receiver, that receiver, and a running back in the backfield with a certain formation, he only runs 2 plays out of that formation. So the defense will know what to do because of his habits. In sports, in professional sports, we practice to understand the opponent's habits.
Kind of like poker.
You know their habits.
Ticks, and that's why some poker players
wear glasses,
wear sunglasses, hat, try to hide their ticks. But if you study someone long enough, you know if they are nervous. Like I can tell now because it's something that I got over. But if someone laughs, like just laughs for no reason after they make a statement, it's a sign of
that is a nervous tick.
It's a nervousness or just an insecurity about something that was behind whatever they said, or they just don't believe in themselves that much, and so they try to.
That's me.
Laugh it off, or
always laughing. My grandfather's
But you
funeral.
don't laugh because you're insecure.
I was at my grandfather's funeral and I was laughing. I didn't know how else to respond.
Oh
so
my God.
Abraham and I, we just looked at each other. We started laughing. Like
we were your kids.
Yeah, but it's like that's my nervous thing. And that was actually identified that.
Oh.
I tell jokes in uncomfortable situations because I want to laugh.
Oh yeah, that is a habit.
That is one of my habits.
Right. So we think habits are just our bodies, like Auntie Felly going to the Auntie Felly is our aunt. She's 90. She's turning 91.
91.
She's turning 91, and she goes to the fridge at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 12 o'clock. It varies. At night, she's not hungry. She's eaten all day. She's had all her meals. She just habitually goes to the fridge, opens the door, and stares into there. Just stares. And I go to her thinking she must be hungry. What do you want to eat? And she's like, oh, and she taps on her head. I don't know. I'm not hungry. I just do it. I don't know why.
90 years of habits. That might not be broken.
That's I don't think she's breaking that. That's just straight up programming. So Alfred, what's one that you have now?
I have a lot of habits. What are some of my habits? When I walk in the door, this is the one I get in trouble for all the time. As soon as I walk in the house, the first thing I do is I take off my shoes. And then right after that, I pull off
at the door opening.
So if you come running through my door right behind me, you're probably going to trip.
Right.
And then right behind that comes my socks.
Somewhere, like we're laying around.
Before I get to the gate, I'll pull them off, but then I put them somewhere where I'm going to sit. Because I'll put them back on when I get ready to leave. So I don't want to stick them in the dirty clothes, which is, the wife, she's like, when you just pull them off, all you have to do is fling them to the left and put them in the dirty clothes.
Yeah, he takes off his jacket and puts it on the banister of the stairs. Then he goes into the living room and he takes the bag that he's carrying and puts it on the dining room chair. And I had already created a place for your keys, so we don't have to look for 20 minutes or be late for anything. And I created a space, a cubby hole of shelves where he can put his bag into, so it won't be on the table.
And she created all this about 3-4 years ago. And if you go down there now, because this is actually our second shoot of this because of the sound, if you go down there now, you'll see my shoes are off to the side.
Great.
My socks now, I tuck them inside my shoes. And then my bag, I'll either put it underneath my desk because I do reach in there to grab things, or right now it's in the cubby hole. I did put it on the chair yesterday, and then I whipped and grabbed it and kick, because it's so easy. I can just kick it in the cubby hole.
Well, we have to explain why this happened. And what the process is. No, it's not me.
Why do you? But damn it.
It's because it's 21 years, so it's not.
Life, it's quiet not the noise. There's so many other things to talk about outside of my socks and shoes.
We'll talk about what are some ways to break habits that you don't want and ways to put in new habits that you do want. All right, the first thing we have to do is become conscious about the habit. I think the first pillar of Alcohol Anonymous is
acknowledgement. You have to acknowledge, my name is Alfred and I am an alcoholic.
You have to, and for you able to do that, you have to be aware that you are an alcoholic. So you have to be conscious and aware that you are doing something that you're actually doing something.
I'm a slob. My shoes are everywhere, my jacket. And it was worse. It was a lot worse than that. But it had gotten better, and I thought it was better, but it was still bad. So now it's getting even better.
We all have habits, though.
We do. We're talking about me today.
No, we don't always talk about you.
I know.
We try to talk about you more. The first one is be aware and conscious that it's even happening. And sometimes you're not. And even though for 21 years I've been, nudging, asking, and then complaining about the same thing over and over again, what caused you to, after 21 years, think I should put my shoes to where people can't trip over them?
I could do better. If it's bothering you that much, if my shoes, if you are that person, keys. If you're the person who walks in the door and you don't look down, see, I'm from the hood. I look down.
If you're carrying
I look around,
baskets and bags, you can only
the front door.
You can look
I look
forward.
to see if anybody's behind me.
Oh my gosh.
But if you gonna come running in the door and don't look, and you've been tripping for 20 years, it's like, maybe
I don't trip all the time, just if I'm carrying lots of things where I can't see right beneath
This is the real problem. It's not just my shoes. Your kids are gonna do what you do.
Yeah.
So you have my one shoe and my slippers.
Now they all do.
And then 3 of my daughter's shoes and 3 of my son's shoes, and it's a maze.
And the closet's right there.
If I'm leading the troops and leaving their shoes out, then I should be the one to break the habit. Her shoes are down there sometimes too, so.
Rarely, but it's there sometimes. Okay, so the second thing we need to do to break a habit is be awake. Like, now that you're awake, and what society is calling it nowadays, it's called woke, because now you are aware and conscious about your thoughts and your actions and your repetitions. Is now we're woke, so we can actually decide and make different choices, which is what we can't do when we're asleep. When we're asleep, we just do things unknowingly, right? We're asleep. And then now that we're woke, we can now make different choices, just like you and the shoes, but you had to wake up. Now you're using your free will choice, where before, when you were asleep, there is no free will choice.
No, you just coming home nilly-willy. I just can't wait to get to the refrigerator, get me a glass of water, wash my hands. See, on autopilot, when I come home, is wash my hands, get some water, and then go just for the food.
In the summertime, he takes his shirt off.
Everything.
And you'll see the trail: shoes, shirt, socks, bag, and it's a trail to
the refrigerator.
Fridge. Sometimes the shirt's on top of the bar stools and
the
table. You can tell when he had his vitamins because there's a wrapper there. I know when he watered the garden because the hose, once Alfred is done with a thought and done with an act, he just drops everything and he's on to the next.
I gotta use the restroom.
And I'm like, every time I use the hose, I put it back, but whatever.
And now in the front to help, because I don't get a fine for the backyard.
Right.
But if I leave my hose out in the front yard, I get a $100 fine.
From the home association.
You want to get me to do something? Fine me.
Don't nag him. It won't work.
Fine me.
So number 1 is be conscious and aware. Number 2 is you're now awake. You're woke. Now you can use your free will and actually make different decisions. You're slower now. You can, once you wake up, time slows down for you. Can you, I don't know if that makes sense, but once I wake up, I can instead of my habit, start yelling at people, why did you put this here? And blah, blah, blah. Time slows so I can make a different reaction. And I'm sorry, instead of reacting, I can take conscious action or inspired action. So it's the difference between react and respond. I think is that second one. And the third one is you have to train your mind like it's an animal.
Come here, Twixie. Come here, Twixie. Put your shoes where they belong. And I get a little treat.
What treat do you get? Oh,
Water.
no yelling.
Yeah, no ear jacking. That's my treat.
Yeah.
Put your bag away. Will I get a treat?
Yeah.
There it is.
You get a treat. So the third way to release a habit that you don't want is to now train it. Like one thing Joe Dispenza said in the one of the 2-hour live feed was that I get to now be the mind. The brain and the body was the mind, and now my spiritual being, my soul, gets to my higher self, my true essence, gets to be the mind. So if you think about it, the steering wheel to your life, that's why we said in the beginning, you can have anything you ever dream of, because now the steering wheel, which is your mind, is now driven by you and not your body. And it's programming. What do you think of that?
So instead of flying on autopilot, you're actually in control.
Yeah. So
You're in control of your own destiny. That's what they mean by that, because you have the will.
you have the will, and there's so much power in us. It's unbelievable, but we'll talk about that in another episode. Okay, now to start creating new habits, that's what people really want to know.
Okay.
Repetition. That's what you do to train a
Repetition is the mother
dog.
of all learning. Repetition.
Not that we're saying we should be
repetition.
reduced to animals, but it works for us too.
It does. Well, we are animals. We're high level.
Our high level evolved animals.
Yeah.
So repetition, you'd have to do something like all the time.
How many times before it was 16 times? Now they say 30 days. Some people say 60 days. What is your research called?
For 66 days for a new
To create a new habit.
Create a new habit. I put stickies on my mirror to remind me to do self-love, to say kind things to myself. So we have to have like new ways of thinking, and you have to trigger new thoughts, because you can't, the habits that we create are not just physical habits, but also our mental habits. Our mental habits are the ones that create our physical habits. So for me, I have to have like a trigger or a friend, someone who can say, like Alfred, the other day, I almost started freaking out about like loss. I have a thing with loss, and what if I lose this, or what if, people leave, or what if people, just the what ifs. And then Alfred had to kindly and gently say, is that true? How do you know that's gonna happen? And I'm like, oh, I don't know that's gonna happen, but it's a habit of mine. And so I put stickies on the wall, and then you have to give, friends or people, loved ones, permission to call out a habit too. What are some of your other ways of breaking?
Are you deflecting now? Because
Yeah. What? No, I said mine.
Okay,
I
what are
gave my
my
mess.
ways?
My mess is out there in the streets. People know what's happening with me. I think you also have to want it.
You do. I wanted to change that, and that's something very simple that is easy. And if you're not changing, what is this thing? If you're not progressing, you're regressing.
Everything in life that is growing everything in life that is growing is living.
Living, yeah.
And everything in life
If
or
you're
in this world,
stagnant, it's dying.
yeah, that is not growing is dying.
So me just leaving my shoes there and you not being happy with it is not good. It needs to be progressively getting better. And when that's no longer an issue, there will be something else that we will need to work on, or I will need to work on.
Let's put it in the realm of fitness and bodybuilding.
I always wanted to be a professional athlete.
Oh.
Always wanted to. Didn't make it in the NFL. Didn't even make it to arena. I pulled my hamstring. I couldn't run it as fast as I used to. So that was done. And then bodybuilding came about at the age of 43, and I saw opportunity. So I went after it.
I think there's people who complain about because Alfred used to say this a lot, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way too. And not rub me the wrong way because I was like offended, but I always thought, oh, he's gonna offend someone because I was a habitual people pleaser in the past, and so when he would say, oh, you just don't want it bad enough, that's why you don't have what you want, I would be like, oh, don't say that, or you can't say that because that's going to offend people. And there are people who are offended by that. What are your thoughts on wanting it bad enough?
Well, your why has to be so big that you will actually achieve the goal.
Okay, but there's people who the doctor says you have to lose weight or else your diabetes is gonna kill you, and you have to stop drinking because diabetes is going to kill you.
True.
And yet still drink and eat fried chicken, and so that's a huge why.
It's not, but it's
and they have kids.
It's that why for you, that you have children, that you're sick, is big for you. But for them to break that habit to live for their children is not a big enough why for them. It's not real. It's not reality. Hasn't sunken in. When it does sink in, most times it's late. I'm not gonna say too late, because things can happen. The power of your mind is incredible. You can turn things around at the drop of a dime. But if they were going into it with the habits and the thought processes of, I'm just gonna eat, and I see it happen
it'll get better on its own or something. I think we're just optimistic.
I think they know that they're eating themselves into a not so good situation, but they don't do anything about it because I don't think they truly believe the pain and suffering that they're gonna go through down the road. But once they're actually going through it, talking to a gentleman last night in the gym, man, we had a good talk. It was about 30 minutes, but he
you came home late.
He knows C.T. Fletcher personally.
Oh.
And this is a guy who's known for bodybuilding. He's very strong. He has a son who does powerlifting, and he knows him personally. And he said, look, if I could do it all over again, I would have never ever taken those performance enhancing supplements. I would have, because now I know for firsthand after having a stroke what it has done to me, my body, and my family. But while they're going through the processes, they don't think, well, no, I'm invincible. It's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen to me.
That makes sense.
So they continue to go on and do things that they probably shouldn't do.
So the pain trigger isn't, there's two things I'm hearing, is the why isn't the right why.
No.
You should find the why that really makes a difference for you. And then two, the pain trigger isn't really like me yelling at you all the time and saying, why does these people leave their shoes here? That wasn't enough.
No, because I got a mute button. Why I did
that wasn't pain enough. You have to find the real source of what is deeply in your heart that makes a difference. And I get it.
For me, I want to be better, and any little thing I could do to get better, then that okay.
But that's your
for
trigger.
Me. But a lot of people, they don't. Getting better is like they just want to work the same mundane job. They don't want to improve. They're not trying to improve their income, their living situation, leave something for their kids. It's more or less just, I'm going to work Monday through Friday. I'm living for the weekends. And if that's you, that's okay. That's your life. That's what you want to live.
Yeah.
For me, I don't want to live that way. And that has to be okay on your end to allow me to live the life that I want to live, and I will allow you to live the life you want to live. I will pay the consequences for the work and working the way that I work, and then you will pay the consequences for not doing that. There's consequences on both sides. It's just what fits for you and your lifestyle.
That totally makes sense to me now that you brought the steroids up, because it's like, who wouldn't want to be like, to me, for me, like, steroids is not even a question, is not even a temptation, because I deem my health and well-being and my life more importantly than minutes on the stage. So I wouldn't even sacrifice that. Or aesthetics. I don't care if somebody
said. They don't even compete. They just want to look a certain way for what? Why?
Yeah.
You look great right now. You trying to keep up with. This guy was invited to be on a team and pay $2,000 a month to be on this bodybuilding team. And he said everyone, including the girls, are on gear. Everyone. And he said, I'm natural, so it just didn't match. I don't want to do that. And I said, well, maybe you should do natural shows.
Yeah. So that makes total sense to me. Even though, you're given warnings about death, about, having liver failure, kidney failure, being on dialysis, whatever. You get all of these warnings, but the desire for public recognition, public affirmation, acceptance is more of the why in that direction than the more of the why in the other direction. So you can kill yourself
because your why is stronger in the other direction.
Yeah.
Why am I having this drink right now? Because I want to be accepted by
even though the doctor told you stop drinking.
In crowd.
Yeah.
I want to be accepted by the in crowd, so I'm going to drink and eat this. I'm accepted. That why is bigger than I want to live for my family and be around for my children, because I think they assume that you're accepted by them, so that they already accept me. No, but these people over here, I want to be in.
So now we have to go dig deeper and find out why we even want the why. It's like, what's the why and why the why?
Yes.
And then you find the root. And once you get to the root, you can pluck it.
Folks, that's our show for today. If you like what you heard, please share our content with the world.
Yes. Share. Because sharing is caring.
It sure is.
See you next time.